Welcome, everybody, to episode 155 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your hosts, Adam Amy and Russell Gibson. Russell, how are you doing? The Olympics are upon us.
Very, very well. I'm not the biggest Olympics fan in the world, but...
Neither's Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get that in.
Yeah. What's that? A minute into the show, you're already sledging the poor guy?
30 seconds, shots fired.
Yeah. No, everything's good on my end. It's actually really funny where it feels it is the off season, but I just feel like there's so much going on at the moment. So
There's a fair bit happening.
I don't feel bored from a basketball card perspective or basketball perspective. And also too, I've just been looking around for some content to watch, and Summer League wise, there is heaps of games on. So they've made a huge improvement on that. And you can literally just go through and scan through and pick the game that you want to watch. So
nice.
That is really cool. And that's one of my life goals, is to get to the Vegas Summer League one day. So at the moment, I'm sort of vicariously living through League Pass at the moment. But yeah, it's great. And my only tiny complaint at the moment is I've had a bit of trouble because I don't have Stan or any other paid TV. So I've had a small amount of trouble watching the Olympic Games, but whatever. It's not
they put highlights up on YouTube and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, but sometimes you just want to watch a full game and sort of get the 40-minute experience, whereas sometimes highlights are a little bit misleading or
true.
Yeah, like I said, very, very minor complaint. So, all right, let's kick off, Ad. We are recording early this week, so if you are listening to the podcast, we're recording on the 24th.
Yeah, that might be very important given that the Olympic Games start on the 27th is the tip-off. So when this pod airs, there'll already have been a couple of games played.
So I think last week on the show, we were talking amongst ourselves about Wemby cards. We said, what we should do is we should do a little segment about Wemby and talk about the cards that's coming out. And our very good friend Ryan at Gemrate has done all the work for us. So
he got to work real quick.
110% credit to Ryan on this. I think this is just us having the best luck that we could possibly have, in terms of timing wise, getting Ryan to do this for us, because I don't think he was actually listening to the show. And I strongly doubt it.
I still think he was listening.
I don't think he did it for us. But
I'd
look,
like to believe that.
Why don't we take some bets on this? We'll message Ryan and say, did you listen to the show and do it for us? Or
if you're listening to the show, Ryan, you got to confirm that you were, even if you weren't. So that'll... Gotcha.
Alrighty, so let's just get straight into it. I will post all of this onto social so it's easy for you to find, because at the moment, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not the easiest to find. You need to go to Gemrate, and then you need to find Ryan's post from July the 23rd.
Yeah.
And the picture that we're talking about, or what we're referring to, is in the comments of his Twitter post. So I think we can do something like that about that to still credit Ryan's work, but also just to make it a little bit easier to find. But I'm going to turn this over to you, Ad. Why don't you just tell me, say, 1, 2, or 3 cards out of this that's really taking your attention, and maybe one that you would add to your PC or be keen to add to your PC.
What stands out to me is that Hoops Presentations, 780 graded.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 parts to this. The first part is that it's the first product that came out, so it's had the longest time to be out and about.
It's also not an SSP in the same vein as like a next day auto.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that. When we actually had Ryan on the show, his belief that it was a true SSP.
Huh.
My recollection of just watching a couple of breaks and then, ripping a couple of boxes, there was literally 1 in each box.
Wow.
And I think now that the grading numbers have come out, it's really obvious as to, what's going on here.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I actually have no problem with this at all, with having that many graded. And also, I don't think the gem rate is that high. I think actually 70, 69%, I think that's pretty good to me, to be honest. Not too high, not too low. But the thing I like about this card the most is the aesthetics of it. I think that is a beautiful card. It's a bit like that Hoops card with Jordan we were talking about last week. Every now and again, Hoops just hits right, and this is one of the examples of it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them.
Now, I haven't checked prices on this, but I'm going to assume that if there's 780 PSA 10s, it's not going to be that expensive to get your hands on one either. And particularly if you fast forward 12 months into the future, Like, I really like this as sort of an entry level awesome card to get into your collection. And I think keeping in mind that sort of manga artwork that we're seeing right now, you're going to see that sort of moving through these sets.
Now, I haven't looked at this up close. Is that it doesn't have a rookie card logo on it. Does it
The
have the
Hoops
shield?
presentations?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It
doesn't have the shield.
Yeah, it's more about the manga as opposed to the rookie logo per se. That's the way I interpret that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that artwork is definitely, coming through. And one I want to talk about later is the Donruss Optic Slammy. Like, I think that's really cool. And
yeah.
I think you'll sort of see that theme repeated, throughout the card. So what else is...
the ones that stick out to me, there's two that I'll talk about.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Donruss Next Day Norto.
Yeah.
Is it Norto? Yeah. Is that what we'll call it?
You can pronounce it any way that you want, man.
Nortograph. God. 62 of those graded at 60%. So that grades quite well. There's no grading on the autograph because there is no autograph. And then we've got the Crown Royal Kaboom.
Yeah.
26 graded at 0%.
That's right. Yeah.
0% gem rate.
I don't like that gem rate at all. Yeah.
No. Interesting though that the blank slate is also at a very low 11%.
Yeah.
So having the border in the blank slates, I think, has had the same impact as the Kabooms. Like, these were both cards that didn't really have a foundation for centering. So, yeah, that was interesting. And that was the first page. Was there anything on the stuff on the second page, there's some cool cards there, but there's not been a lot graded. And the stuff with the low grades have got only low submission rates.
Yeah, so the Revolution Primetime Performers, they're actually a really tough pull. And so you'll see there's just been 11 graded at the 55% gem rate. So I feel like that's sort of a card that is a genuine SSP, but a little bit goes under the radar in terms of people chasing it and also the secondary price market. So I think that's one for me to sort of keep your eye on. I actually wonder in the future if that becomes, and not just for the Wemby one, for all of the others that's in the set too, that these actually do become a bit more of a chase card and people sort of retrospectively go back and try and chase them. Yeah. And then just sticking to this second page, I think the other one we have to talk about, is the Black Color Blast, because that is a huge chase. And
that's a good looking card.
I actually think they've done a good job at it this year. And again, we do talk about them taking risks in terms of, the different products and all this type of stuff. I think that's a risk they've taken and it's pulled off, really, really well. Interesting, though, he's actually got that as a raw card, not as a PSA 10 card. So
it's true. Maybe there's not an image. No one's posted an image of it as a PSA 10.
Yeah, just possibly.
With the Black Color Blast, though, I'll put this out there.
Yeah, talk to me.
Are we seeing the difference? And this is not a conspiracy theory, but difference between the blank slate, the Kaboom, and now the Black Color Blast. There is no border on this, so you don't know if the centering's off. And that's why it's got that 3 out of 4 have been graded gem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the lack of a border could be,
So to keep going in that frame of mind, in the previous sets of the blank slates, people were buying them raw, sending them off to PSA because it was a really good play to do that. So maybe what you'll see this year is people will chase the Color Blast pretty hard, buy them raw, send them off to PSA, and then make a bit of bank that way. Maybe that's the way that the market changes a little bit for this year.
Yeah.
Any others you want to chat about, Ad?
None that really stand out.
All right. All right. So I think for me, first of all, I just want to thank Ryan for this because this is amazing work. I think Ryan does very thoughtful work and he does work for people that just love the hobby. So Ryan, thank you so much again. So I'm going to make 3 points. My first point, which I was touching on before, is the manga art theme that's coming through. So I think the Donruss animation is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my favorite, though, is the Donruss Optic Slammy. There's just something about that. I really like it. It's almost a little bit NBA Jam-ish for me, and that was a very important video game for my childhood.
The small body, the bigger...
so there's a little bit of that. But I'm going to finish on the Prismania. And the reason I'm going to stop there is because I think at the end of the day, Prism is going to be the most important product. And when we, look back in time and we start to filter things out, I do wonder if this is the manga card that's going to be, the most important. Looking at also how many's graded and the gem rate, again, I think these 10s are going to be at quite a premium. The other really interesting thing for me is I've not seen a lot of these around on the secondary market. And I wonder if they're the type of cards that people get and they just
hold.
Yeah, they just put them into their boxes, they put them into their safe, and they just put them away. It's not something I've seen a lot of in trade. So I just feel like that's the type of card that you just have to keep your eye out for and, set all your eBay notifications for and all that type of business. So, all right, there's that part of it. And then the second part of it, I think for me, is just really interesting cards that I didn't expect to be there. So, for example, the Select Starcade, I don't really consider that to be a true SSP. I'm a little bit surprised that that's actually there. And also, too, it's more for me as an insert as opposed to an SSP. So I would really...
I get what you're getting at.
Yeah, I'm sort of be surprised if people will be chasing that at all. But again, a really good entry-level card for you to, to collect if that's, fits into your budget at that point. And then I think probably my last, remark is just this Donruss Optic Alter Ego. I don't really think that has taken off in any way at all. I don't think that's going to be chased a lot. Now, in saying all of that, in terms of matching a card to a player with the alien nickname that he's got, and then it's got this super cool alien-inspired artwork in the background, it's almost like a tattoo that someone's got, and you're looking at this like sick piece of artwork. You're like, yeah, that like looks really cool. So I think that's the type of card that you pick up on eBay. You're not spending a heap of money on it. You put it into a beautiful one touch and you sit it onto your desk and you just look at that, when you come home from work each day, something along those lines. I really like that sort of, for that, again, that sort of entry level. I think if I had unlimited budget and I was going to buy one card and I, really, really wanted something, I'm just going to say the Kaboom. I know that's an absolute cop-out, but I think at the same time, sometimes you have to just like keep it simple and just, pick the right card. The thing that's really...
I think I'd go with the blank slate, actually.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind it. I just think...
Let's be fair. I'm going with the Nautograph.
The thing I'm really struggling to get my head around this year is just the grades on these. Just like with the 0% gem rate, the guys from Backyard Breaks were making a post about this, is that, 9 is the new 10 and 8 is the new 9. And I think, we kind of shit on these guys for some of the things they say, but sometimes they're on point with some of the things they say. I think he's right about this. I think the market will adjust to the way that, these cards are sort of coming back. And
true,
I don't think it's going to be a big deal in terms of it, being held back. So, and actually in some ways, I kind of think it's good for the hobby in the sense that it takes the focus away from the grade, because sometimes we just froth over, 10s, which is fine. I do it too. I've got no problem with it, but maybe it sort of strips it back a little bit and actually say, this is a cool card and I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is, So
yeah,
yeah,
most definitely. No, there's some really nice ones there, and Select have got their own version of the Color Blast, I guess, with the color wheel. It's cute. It's cute.
Look, it's cool. I think it fits into a price point, but it's not something that people froth over, I think.
No, it's just simple version of, I don't know, the Donruss Night Moves or the Obsidian Color Blast. They're cooler looking cards.
I really like the Auroras, but they just don't hit the secondary market in that sense, and literally just no one cares about them. So I think I've picked up like 3 or 4 of the Foxes now because they're case hits that I can get for about 100 Aussie dollars. And sometimes when I see them for sale, it's just too much for me to go past, and I just I just grab them. Like,
the Auroras do look pretty nice though.
You know what I mean? I feel like I'm very much in the minority when it comes to that. So, all right. The next thing we're going to talk about, is the overall list that Ryan has produced. So this is the top 50 graded athletes of all time. We've got Jordan in at number 1 with 2 million cards. Ken Griffey Jr. at 900, nearly a million cards. So we are going to talk a little bit of non-basketball on this guy, so I do apologize. LeBron at 900,000, Kobe at 835, Shohei Ohtani at 651K, Derek Jeter at 558K, Mickey Mantle, some old school there, 546K, Tom Brady the enemy of the podcast at 513K. We got Big Zion at 500K. And then skimming down the list a little bit at 12, we've got Jar at 467, Luca at 13 at 457. Probably won't sit here and read out the top 50 to you, but what I will say to you, Ad, when you look through this list, what are your surprises? What did you think was going to be higher? What did you think was going to be lower? Where are you at with all this type of stuff?
LaMelo Ball surprises me, and so does Trae Young.
Okay, so why
as far as basketball goes?
Why are you surprised by LaMelo? So he's at 50 at 176K.
I thought there'd be some other players like Tatum. I thought might have been up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's other players recently.
Yeah.
That I think deserved to be graded more. I think everyone went crazy while we were in lockdown and sent all their LaMelos off for grading, I guess. This is...
Yes, it was lockdown, but I think also too in that particular time frame, so Tatum was 17, 18. Luka was 18, 19. And I think actually that's how much the hobby changed in that 12-month period. Okay. And so where I'm going with that is I think the argument could be made if Tatum came back or came out 1 year later. So just say he was in the same draft as Luka, he would probably have as many cards graded as Trae Young does now. So Trae Young is currently sitting at 39 with 194,000 cards graded. Because I agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying. Why isn't Jason Tatum at that point where Trae Young is? And that actually makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the year behind you might be bang on there.
Yeah. The LaMelo Ball one, I'm actually not surprised he's there because for that 12-month period, he was the king of the hobby, and I think everyone was jumping onto him, grading them to flip and all that type of stuff. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Forgetting about our friend Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about Edwards? Because Edwards is definitely on the list there.
He has. I think but he's very recently jumped LaMelo. I think LaMelo's been in that spot for a while. I think Anthony Edwards is sort of recently.
He's surged massively. Yeah, I agree with that
spot. Yeah.
So Edwards is at 47 with 177,000. So only 1,000 more. It's actually not heaps, is it? Look,
I think it's unique to look at the fact that if you add Victor Wembanyama to Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, you're probably still not getting past the number of MJs. That's my surprising stat. But Edwards, do you think Edwards belongs there?
I think, it's more of the sign of the time of, like the phase that we're in. And look, I think long-term Edwards is a special player. I was actually thinking about this the other day. How special is this guy? Is he going to be as good as Vince Carter? And so, until
Vince
he does
Carter's
something...
the ceiling you've given Edwards.
I think Vince Carter had a really good career.
Okay.
He played 20 years, 21, 22 years in the NBA. He's top 20 all time in points. That's a really good career.
It's not too bad.
And I'm definitely not saying that to throw shade at the guy. I'm just saying realistically, we're caught up in the hype at the moment and it's fun. And don't get me wrong, the hype is cool and he's earned it. But at the same time, this all might plateau out and this is sort of on competitive teams, not even teams that are competing for a championship. So, but
yeah.
I don't have a serious problem with, Edwards being that high, but I think probably where I get a little bit surprised is when you start to look, say, from 28 to 45. So you've got Larry Bird in there. Trae Young is obviously a surprise for all the wrong reasons, but someone like Giannis, you'd actually think that he would have a lot more cards up there now, particularly after the 2 MVPs, the championship. That's the type of thing where I'm like...
Yeah.
And so... where I'm going with this, and I'll put Nikola Jokic into the same conversation piece about this.
Yeah.
Is there actually that little bit of a void in the hobby where actually they're still a little bit undervalued? People haven't sent off heaps of their stuff, to get graded. And on the bigger boys, is there still that play to be made where you buy those cards raw, send them to PSA and, play the PSA lottery?
I thought inspired by what you've just said.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We've seen, and I'm using Jordan as the comparison, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about this recently with Jordan inserts, the graded Jordan inserts, seeing a resurgence or a surge going on with the way they're selling. I don't think we've really started to see that with Kobe and LeBron yet. So is there another level for those cards to go with people sending everything Kobe, everything LeBron, when I say everything, you'll notice that the cards that people grade predominantly, we're not going to say because people grade everything, is rookie cards, right? Have we not hit that point yet with LeBron and Kobe, or have we already, and that's the result we're seeing? Is that what you're getting at? Like, people are going to go and say, you know what, I'm not going to get a Giannis rookie card graded. I've pulled a random green, and I'm going to call it a color match, so I'm going to go and get that graded, or a numbered Giannis, or do you see where I'm getting at? Like, I think the majority of cards that are graded are rookie cards, and then as an athlete gets more popular, more of a bigger variety of their cards gets shipped off.
I hope I'll answer this correctly. So I think for Giannis specifically, I don't think he's got the liquidity or the popularity just to grade any old insert or veteran silver card to send it off to PSA, and then that card will be liquid. I think your focus with Giannis and, say, Jokic is still very much rookie cards and autograph cards, something like that. That's a significant piece in comparison to LeBron James and Kobe Bryant,
5-time champions.
I don't have a problem with you grading literally anything that's got LeBron James written on the card or even in the background. I think just as the play, there's that play with Jordan where you can grade weird veteran cards with Jordan in the background and that still has some liquidity. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that for LeBron James and Kobe. The real question is, or the important thing to follow that up with is, well, when will it be liquid? And I don't think you really have an answer for that. So you could be sitting on something for quite a long time, but are we going to be seeing more of a resurgence for Kobe stuff and LeBron stuff in the future? I think absolutely. I think it's just not a matter of if, it's when. That's the real thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at, because I feel like Steph is going to be one of those guys. I think Steph is definitely one of those that will.
Right.
You'll start grading everything Steph, right?
So let's talk about Steph. So he's 32 on the list. He's got 228,000 K. So I think if you are looking at maybe the easiest or the person who's the easiest to pick up here, that's the one that has got the most room to move, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's also where, going back to our friend Ryan at Gemrate here, I think he's very hot on Steph Curry rookies and stuff like that. And maybe this is another reason why for that. There's a lot of room to move here. Yeah.
I do think with Giannis, and I'll circle back to Giannis because I think you're right. There isn't wiggle room, and I'll get another shot in at Luka while I'm at it.
There is. I'm saying there's lots of wiggle room. I'm saying,
but they won't grade anything with Giannis at the moment. If Giannis wins, all of a sudden the Bucks come back.
Yeah,
they go back to back.
They got Gary Trent Jr. That puts them over the top. Yeah,
that's it. They've got their replacement players that make the team gel, and all of a sudden they're NBA champions again.
Doc is cramming every day, filling his notebook full of notes.
That's it. And Giannis gets another MVP, gets another championship. All of a sudden, the Bucks are a powerhouse. Giannis is back in the spotlight. Does he climb up the list? Do people just start going, oh my God, we forgot about Giannis. Let's go crazy with the Antetokounmpo thing. Also with that, if Luka doesn't win, does he just stay at 457? Do you know what I mean? Like around that 460 mark. Because without the success, people stop grading the cards.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot to be on this list. So there has to
definitely
be a level of winning. Because you look at it, in that top 5 there, we'll say the top 3 NBA players out of the top 4. Jordan, 6-time champion, arguably the greatest player of all time, arguably because the debate will never end. But then we have LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. But between them, that's 16 championships. That shows that winning does stimulate this economy to an extent.
Yeah, for sure.
And opens that up. And I think that, I think there's opportunities for people to jump the ladder and,
So, Ad, we've actually gone really long here without even realizing. Let's have a quick break and we'll come back and we can do part 2 on this because I think there's still a lot for us to chew through.
This is going to be the Gemrate episode.
Yeah, we literally could just do this for the whole episode.
We
won't. We're going to talk about other stuff, guys. Don't stress. We'll be back. Alrighty. US Sports Cards Australia are our proud sponsor and primary sponsor of the podcast. Thank you so much to Team US Sports Cards Australia, in particular Ross Torden, Ross would like us to talk about his current project and newest project. I think that's what we should say to ComCA. So basically a consignment service for Australian trading card collectors. You send your cards to Ross. He will put them up onto the website. People can then buy and sell them or buy and get them posted out to them in one convenient postage lot. At the end of the month, if you are a seller who is consigning cards with Ross, he will send you a lump sum of money at the end of the month to take care of your bills. Then also too, if you are a breaker, get in contact with Ross. He can basically take all of those base cards, all of the cards that people don't want to be posted out to them. He can sell them onto the page, and again, at the end of the month, send you a nice tidy sum of cash. ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. Click on the three little noodles on the top left-hand side, then click on ComCA. You will find his website there. Thank you so much for your support. Righty, we are back. Adam, let's talk about some of the concerns we have with this. I'm going to start off immediately at number 9, which is Zion Williamson. I am very worried at seeing the total population on this at basically 500,000 cards.
That's right. It's a lot of paperweights. It's fine.
It makes me really worried in the sense that even if he has a fantastic career, I just wonder with this overpopulation / overgrading of cards, these are just basically going to, the bottom is going to fall out of them. So that's probably my biggest concern looking at this list.
True.
And I think it's a really interesting comparison. So we've got Shaq at 15.
Yep.
And I think the comparison I'd like to make here is that Shaq's got basically about the same amount of cards. He's got 400,000 cards there, which is a lot, particularly for the era that Shaq came from, and compared to, say, Zion, which is in a very different era in terms of the number of cards graded. But Shaq has had a very, very successful career. He's got this very larger-than-life personality type. And
yep, agreed.
Zion doesn't have either of those things. He doesn't have the total points scored. He doesn't have the championships. And personality-wise, he's not the biggest of talker, and I couldn't really imagine him having his own TV show and podcast and all the rest of it. So
he's young.
Okay, look, definitely I could be wrong about this, but
you sound pretty accurate.
That's my biggest worry, to be honest. When you read this list, who are you worried about?
Worried. I mean, everyone in that sort of on the 26 to 50 side, I guess there's no real concerns.
I think Trae Young.
What about Ja Morant?
I would put probably Ja into the same conversation as Zion, but
I mean, he could come back next season and tear it up and Memphis could be the next big thing. Who knows? But I think, everyone went pretty hard that rookie year, and I think that shows. That's really showing with what we've got in this list. Like, it's showing that's the rookie year, right?
Sure.
But then we see the opposite side of that with people like Luka and Trae. But I think Trae Young's probably concerning. I wouldn't say overly concerning for me, but I'd like what I'm curious to know now.
Yeah.
And Ryan, if you're listening, is number of cards graded, unique cards. Because I would hazard a guess if we were to, and I'll use the last couple of players we've talked about in Zion and Shaq as the example. I would say, I don't know, 500 different cards, unique cards for Zion versus 4,500 different cards for Shaq. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there'd be a bigger diversity, a bigger range of cards that have been graded uniquely. I just think that data would be fun to play with.
Yeah.
But, because, I mean, look, Luka Doncic, there's 3 cards, isn't there, in that 457? Prism base, Prism Silvers, and
Prism numbered cards.
Numbered cards. That's it. That's all.
There was no other cards.
There was no other cards printed. That's the pop.
No kabooms. Yeah, no downtown stuff.
In fact, of those 457,000, 455,000 are all Prism base. No. I joke. That we'll get to that next year.
All right. So I think probably my final thought on this is responding to your Ja Morant comment, I was quite firm in my opinion last week about I'm very worried about Ja Morant and Zion prices bottoming out in the next 12 months. And I think I'm going to double down on this. So if we got Gemrate with that many cards at number 12, 467,000, that to me is definitely a red flag. And the name that we haven't mentioned so far is Wemby. So Wemby's clocked in at 24. 280,000 cards have been graded.
Wow.
And I feel like in some ways I'm contradicting myself because on one hand I'm saying, well, Wemby, I'm not worried at all about it. And Jar, I'm very concerned. But I think the difference is I'm really putting Wemby into the same sentence as Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe at the moment. I think he's just this very liquid guy that is going to continue to be liquid.
You hope so.
I think he is because I think he's going to outshine Jar and Zion in terms of hobby-wise. And I think this year's rookie crop, either there's going to be a huge opportunity to pick up cheap Wembys because people have literally just lost their attention span after 12 months, which I think is absolutely crazy. I think whoever is in this year's draft is not going to be holding a candle to Wemby in terms of talent potential and also hobby potential. So, that's something I think we should keep an eye on. But
yeah,
I can actually see him being more graded than Jordan. And this is my hot take from today's show. Because
that's a lot of cards.
Yeah, but the reason I say that and the reason why I feel pretty comfortable about it, we were just talking about this, that, Tatum came 1 year too early and he's not even in the top 50. But Wemby is in this huge time where people are sending off cards all the time. The other thing too, I think why he's going to be eventually more graded than Jordan is because I think people are becoming a little bit more selective about what they send. So, for example, we went through this sort of junk grading era where every single card that you got was sent off to be graded. So, for example,
Luka, Zion,
Ty Jerome rookie cards from Optic and Don Russ were being sent off, right?
Yeah, people just, because it was cheap, you just do it, right?
Now that you look back at it, it's so almost comical to think that we did that and, we thought that was a good idea. Whereas I think even some of, the rookies that we see at the moment, so maybe this is not the best example, but this is one that's coming to the top of my head. Someone like, say, Miles Bridges or PJ Washington, like there's not that many of them. I feel like in that sort of very short period of time, we almost have wised up a little bit. And so
sure.
I say the same thing from this year's rookie class. Like, I don't think there's that many Brandon Millers that it's been sent in.
True. Yeah, understandably.
I think most people are like, okay, we know who the liquid person is this year. This is the person we're going to send in bulk to PSA. And this is the best chance we've got, to flip these cards out. Or, these are the cards we want to keep in our PC. So that's why, I think the hobby has grown a little bit. I think we've also gotten a little bit smarter. And that's why I feel like this is the reason why it's going to happen.
Looking at the period of time that happened, my thought on that would be, if you look at Zion and Ja is the spot, right?
Yeah.
And that's when all of the other players started to get graded as well. Like through to Luka. That's a period, right?
Sure.
There's people just said everything. And that's because you could send a card for grading. And if you look at the prices of cards, like the spike we went through,
yeah,
you could send a Derek White off for grading, and if he had a crazy game, his cards would be worth $500, so you could 10x your money.
Yeah, I think also too, even if he didn't have a crazy game, you could put it up for sale and you could take
it was a 10,
the price that you paid for it, and then your grading fee, and then add say $10 or $20 on top of it, even if it was a low level card. Like I think that's the real difference. You could sell.
You could flip it really
easier.
Yeah. And I think once the market wisened up to the volume that was being put out there,
the bubble burst to a degree.
Yeah. Now there's less people grading, so the market will correct, and then the value will probably, because of the sparsity, obviously the value will be driven up because there's not as the pop counts aren't as high. I think there's an ebb and flow. I think there's an ebb and flow to it.
Yeah, I think on some cards the pop count is still very high. Like we need to actually like to see the total pop counts on. I can't wait for Victor to be on card ladder. I'm really interested to see that.
You realise that you're suggesting Victor's going to have 1.8 million more than Jordan graded over the next period of time.
But he's already 24th after 12 months out.
But
Jordan's been in the hobby for nearly 40 years.
But you take the top few out of it, and then it drastically drops.
But if he's at number 4 or 5 next year, I'm not going to be surprised.
I just don't think he's eclipsing Jordan. That 2 point, Jordan's more than double the next two.
I think it's going to be one of those things like when you look back at NBA players' salaries from even 10 years ago and you see who the top earners were, like it's going to change so much, moving forward. Like people weren't, like 40 years ago, people weren't grading Jordan cards, right? Do you know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
it's always
That's
unfair
true.
to compare the two.
That's true.
So,
I feel like by putting him in that status, you're suggesting that in 20 years' time, the GOAT debate is not going to be LeBron versus Jordan.
No.
It's going to be Jordan versus Wemby.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in the current time that we're in and the way that people are sending cards in, I think how liquid he is, you multiply this out by 20 years, like it's easily he's going to be number one. He might have double the number of cards.
Yeah, but this is all obviously his rookie cards that are going off. Like it's a spike of sorts. But we'll find out in 20 years' time. We'll check in.
If we're still podcasting,
that's it. We'll check
episode 12,000. Yeah.
Don't worry. This will be a yearly check-in. I'll be off season. What's the news? Jordan versus Wemby. That's it. Let's check in.
Alrighty, let's go to our next break, and we'll come back, and we will talk some LeBron James, and we'll have some You Can't Comp This news of our own.
Nice.
We are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for coming back. LeBron James to hold the Team USA flag. Congratulations to LeBron James. I think you are a role model. I think you're a fantastic ambassador. And I actually give this A++ to Team USA for naming him to be their ambassador and their flag holder. So congratulations, LeBron. I don't care if people are going to say I'm getting on his like jockstrap or all the rest of it. I don't care at all. I also thought it would be a really good time for us to talk LeBron James cards. I've picked out something that's a little bit different, a little bit weird. The 2018 Panini Prism LeBron James Red Prism PSA 10. Population on this is just 95. It last sold for $152. I like this card. It's numbered to 299. It ticks a lot of boxes for me.
Yeah.
In that sub 200 range, PSA 10, it's numbered. It's a near color match. I think the correct color terminology for that uniform he was wearing for the Cavs at the time was... Sorry, that's a Lakers card. It's actually a Lakers card.
Oh, the original first year Lakers, he had a Cavs uniform, didn't he?
Well, I wonder actually, if that's an old photograph. It's really actually hard to tell. I think that is a Cavs uniform though, and that's their wine-colored uniform that they wore for a little bit. But anyway.
More of a burgundy than a red, like a deep red. Yeah.
That's right. Any thoughts from you?
We're just going to get deep on color matches now.
Absolutely. So any thoughts from you, Ad, on LeBron being the flag holder?
I do believe the memes have already started. Flag bearer appearances 1, Jordan 0. And throw that into the GOAT debate. Why not?
I feel like people are sick when it comes to this stuff. They can't help themselves.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I think he's the first basketballer to get the flag bearing opportunity. So I think it's an honor, and I think it's well warranted that LeBron is chosen. He's going over. He's 30? No, he's turning 40 in like 5 months. It's an amazing feat to be doing what he's doing at his age, and there's a lot of athletes at the Olympics that are going to get a real privilege, the privilege of meeting LeBron James on the court. I think it's going to be cool.
I remember when I was a kid, when Kathy Freeman was the Australian flag holder. I think she lit the torch too, didn't she? The Olympic flame.
Yeah.
Gotta love a bit of Kathy. Alrighty, You Can't Comp This news. Hobby Hangout, Melbourne, the 17th of November. Bookmark this in your diary, people. We will be there representing Melbourne at the Hobby Hangout. We've been invited back. We pretty much replied yes without even checking with our significant others. We just ran the gauntlet, didn't we, Ad?
That's it. It was like, would you like to? Like, would we?
That's right, yeah.
It was a question, but we phrased it differently. So, no.
Sydney, 1st of December. And Adelaide and Brisbane, you have been asking for a hobby hangout. You have asked, the boys have delivered. We don't have a confirmed date yet, but there is no way that they would put it onto a poster and not deliver. So Adelaide, Brisbane, you've been asking for it. It is coming your way. So congratulations to you guys. You'll have the full hobby hangout experience. You'll have an absolute blast.
You have to come to Melbourne to get the You Can't Comp This hobby hangout experience.
Full experience, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's true. Alrighty, I'm going to nerd out a little bit here. A lot of these segments next are really for me just to nerd out on because it's the off season. It's my favorite time of the year. So
trades are happening, things are happening. Yeah,
the Memphis Grizzlies are trading Zaire Williams and a 2030 second round pick via Dallas to the Brooklyn Nets for, excuse my pronunciation, Mamadi Diakite. Sources tell ESPN. So basically, the best way for you to think about this is a salary dump by Memphis, and the Nets have salary cap space. So what they're doing is they take in a young asset, and they also take in some draft pick equity on top of that too, basically selling their cap room for that. So fantastic move there for the Nets. I really like this a lot for them. I've been frothing over Zaire Williams a little bit because if you remember last time, he's basically someone who's grown since he's come into the NBA. So he's already put on nearly 5 inches onto his frame. So this is something about those guys that I have to admit, it's like very tantalizing for me. Yeah. I had a look at his sold prices. So there's some really interesting ones on here, which I think are worth looking at.
I'm trying to look him up on Card Ladder, but
he's not on Card Ladder. So if you click on the link in the sheet ad, there's some eBay sold listings.
eBay
yeah.
Sales.
So
I wasn't actually looking him up on Card Ladder. I was just guessing he wasn't there.
Yeah, he's not there, unfortunately. PSA 9, numbered to 39 on the Blue Scope rookie. That sold for $1,750. Whoever bought that, congratulations. The other one here that took my fancy here was the Spectra, numbered to 49. PSA 9, that is. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to read. US $20.50. And the last one, which I probably think is worth mentioning, 21-22 National Treasures vertical RPA, number to 99, PSA 10 on that. That is very, very, very uncommon to get PSA 10, $282. So all of those 3 purchases, I really like at 3 different price points.
Yeah.
And look, you can scavenge, raws for, a couple of dollars, I'd be guessing, for this guy here. So yeah, some really interesting times. I think keep an eye on this kid. He's going to be in the rotation, I suspect. There's no reason they'll trade for him and put him onto the bench. Yep, great pickup there for the Nets. Congratulations.
Nice.
Dallas Mavericks. The Denver Nuggets we're going to talk about ad here. What I thought we could talk about ad is just start off with that KCP is left. So huge acquisition for the Magic. I think that ticks off so many boxes for what they need. They need a veteran. They need a shooting guard. They need 3-and-D. Great. They've got all that. But on the flip side, then the Nuggets have got this hole that essentially needs to be replaced. So if you look at their depth chart here, there's a couple of different depth charts. You can see some of them have got Julian Strawther as the starting shooting guard. Some will have Christian Braun. So it really does depend on the one that you look at. Yeah. I'm probably going for Christian Braun to be starting. So initially, that's the person who I think is going to have the most raise in their value. So that's who I'd be looking at first. In saying all of that, I think Christian Braun is a good athlete. I think he's going to be potentially a reasonably good 3-and-D player, like a very weak version of a KCP. But I think in terms of talent, Julian Strawther is the one to keep an eye on there. So
true.
They're the two that is immediately coming to my mind. I think also too, in terms of someone having the opportunity on a very good team that could have a deep run, there's not that many guys in the league that you can say is young, is cheap, and could also have a long, deep run. So I really like this. I think if you want to go into some bargain bins, you want to go into eBay and get some cards for sub $10, all the rest of it, there'd be plenty of action out there for you to have a bit of a play with this. So
most definitely.
Is there anyone on the Nuggets roster that you're keen on, Ad? Who else are you looking at?
So who are you looking at? Strawther.
No, like you could
looking at the depth chart. They had Trey Alexander as well, and I think there's some opportunity there. Yeah, I think that looking at the depth chart, it's going to be very interesting with the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anyone to add on the Denver Nuggets?
Well, so
Yeah,
can we hold that thought for 2 seconds? Is that all
sure.
right? Yeah. So there's sort of the rumor out there is that part of the reason why KCP left is because the front office have been putting together young players for the coach to play, but he's not been playing them. He's been playing vets. So
Yep.
basically, the way to force his hand, they're like, we're going to strip out some veterans from you. And they also did that too. They lost another veteran who's further down in the sheet. Sorry, it slipped my mind for a second. Reggie Jackson. So
Yep.
that's the same thing. I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
like
yeah.
Reggie Jackson, and I thought that was a really good pickup for the Hornets, but actually he's just been bought out today. So sorry, I'm
It's a long term
segueing here.
play. It's actually a long term play though from Denver, and it's very smart the way to you're opening that door at the 2 guard position.
Yeah, no, I get it 100%. But for example, now Philadelphia have picked up a really good veteran backup point guard who I think has actually
True.
still
Yeah.
got a lot of talent. So, there's that part of it. But I think going back to what you're saying, so yeah, so Peyton Watson's the other one to look at. And then Zeke Naji. So, like full disclosure here, I've got a small Zeke Naji side PC. The thing I worry about this guy is that at the end of the day is probably size for him because
Mm,
I think if he's going to be successful in the NBA, he's going to be a 5. But does he have
yeah.
enough meat on the
But
bones to sort of bang with the big boys? Yeah.
the only problem with Zeke, I think, on this team is Jokic in the big games is going to play 48 minutes. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to get a lot out of him. And I definitely think Murray needs a bit of a rest. He'll play a lot of minutes, but that 2 guard spot rotation, you're going to have opportunities. So it's that 2-3 area, even the 1-3. But
The thing I considered Denver though is that they could put out 3 wings really easily and just get Jokic to bring the ball up. I never really stress about who's playing 1, 2, and 3 for the
yeah,
Nuggets.
true.
I could be wrong about that. At the same time, though, it just seems like they could put out Jalen Pickett, Christian Braun, and Peyton Watson. I still think that they wouldn't have a problem getting the ball up the court. It just doesn't matter. Yeah. Right. Sorry, I cut you off before. The reason I think what you're trying to get to is Russell Westbrook. So he's been traded again to the Jazz. They basically have cut him almost immediately. So that's the second time he's been traded to the Jazz and
The
also
second
let
time I
go
was looking for
in 3
the
years
image.
about that. Yeah. So that's a
Oh,
funny one there. The Nuggets are going to pick him up. Why do you think the Nuggets have picked him up? Because to me, he's almost the anti-Nuggets player.
he's so an anti-Nuggets player.
Yeah.
Is he going to fill out that time that Jokic isn't on the court? Because his usage is so ridiculous. That said, he was different at the Clippers, so I don't know how he's reformed. I don't think he has. It's always going to be the same Russell Westbrook. I don't think he fits, but maybe he does. Who knows?
So he's joined them on a veterans minimum.
Of course he has.
The way I look at this is that it's almost for the Nuggets, they can't lose. Like this is just like a free safety or you're playing with house money because I think this team is really well established. I think it's a very veteran laden team in terms of you can always have one knucklehead on the team and you can manage that one knucklehead. That's sort of something famous that the Golden State Warriors did with Boogie Cousins, and they've brought in a few sort of like loose ends over the years, and they've always said, one is fine, but like JaVale McGee, they had him on the team for a while, and
True.
and one is fine. So I think that sort of fits that rule really nicely.
Yeah.
I think also too what you said is he has reformed a little bit, and I actually agree with that. I think his shot selection is much better. He's not so egocentric anymore, but at the end of the day, he is going to do Russell Westbrook things. I don't disagree with that.
He's going to do that with the second unit, though. I don't think he's going to jump into a starting 2 spot.
No, I don't. I definitely don't think he's going to start. But I was actually going to say I don't think he's going to finish either. So then I don't think you have to worry about him shooting the 3-pointer at the end of the game because he'll be on the bench and probably Christian Braun will be in with Michael Porter Jr. Like that makes more logical sense to me than Westbrook playing 45 minutes. So
I like it. I think it's not a bad makeup.
Yeah, I think where that really helps them is just helps them in games, say 45 to 82 when Jokic is tired, Michael Porter Jr. is injured, and you need a live body that's a good NBA player who's a veteran who's proven can win you a couple of games. I think that's where I really like, the Russell Westbrook signing for them. So
definitely, I like
Alrighty,
it.
this next one is a little bit of an oddball one because I've sort of said how much I hate the Olympics, but I have to bring this in because Giddy has taken a lot of hate this offseason in terms of, all that extracurricular off the court stuff that he went through, and then basically being traded for a bag of peanuts to the Bulls. And then people were even saying that the Bulls lost that trade. I could not disagree more. I think picking up Giddey in terms of his size, his youth and athleticism is an absolute home run for the Bulls.
Yeah.
He's basically had a game-winning play in the pre-Olympic qualifiers.
Yeah.
He's had some really good numbers. I'm not going to reel off a whole lot of statistics for you, but he's clearly not mentally scarred by everything that's happened to him the last 12 months. And there's also an argument to be made that he's rejuvenated. He's going to come back and be, the leader on this Bulls team that realistically is, desperate for some leadership. So, I think in terms of Josh Giddey, you have to be really excited about this. Card ladder wise, he's up 35% the last 3 months.
People are excited about this move to the Bulls.
Yeah, this is not a coincidence for me. I think that this is very positive for his card value, particularly the beating that he's taken the last 12 months. I think it's been pretty bad if you were a Josh Giddey holder, because at one point he was down to $35. So he's gone from $35 all the way back up to $124, nowhere near his all-time high at nearly $300, but at the same time, still very positive. I'm going to stick with my rating of A++ in terms of Josh Giddey being a buy. It's maybe a B at the moment, just for the fact that he's gone up so much in the last month or so, but still I think that's a really good buy.
If it does have a really positive impact on the Bulls, where do you think he sits? Is he a $200 player? Is he a $300?
Look, I think if he gets to $200 the next 12 months, I'll be very surprised. But at the same time, I don't think this is going to be a depreciating asset anymore. I think this is going to be a very slow burn upwards. And that feels better for me than a car that's going to be worth 50% less in 12 months. That's the way I sort of
a steady 150 maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's a good news story about an Aussie.
Yeah, that's right. We should take a break ad because we're all over the place with our ads tonight. But let's have our last break and we'll come back and do our final segment.
And finish it off.
Yeah. Alrighty, we are back. Now, if you ever need a little bit of a pick-me-up, you should have a look at this Instagram post. Shams Sharania, screen time, 21 hours, 34 minutes. Even me, who enjoys looking at screens, has never quite clocked up 21 hours. So I'm feeling pretty good about my self-esteem and my screen time at the moment, Ad. What's your record for screen time?
I nowhere near that. I get I feel worried if it goes over 4 hours or something. It means I've been bludging on the couch just sort of scrolling.
Yeah, death scrolling.
Yeah. Wow.
That's epic.
21 hours and 34 minutes on the first day of NBA free agency.
He must have injected Red Bull intravenously to stay awake for that long too,
That's dedication.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like, this is I've got to focus, got to stay focused.
Yeah.
Free agency is where it's at.
Speaking of free agency, he actually announced his own free agency. So he's going to be basically putting himself to our open market for people to bid on him, basically. So
pretty fun.
Yeah. Alrighty. Caleb Martin has left the Miami Heat, which was basically someone who bought into the whole Heat culture part. He signed a 4-year contract, $35 million guaranteed, another $5 million in unlikely incentives, and he is signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. Mm-hmm. He will most likely be their starting power forward this year. I'm really excited about this for the 76ers. I think this is a huge loss for the Miami Heat. In saying that, Jamie Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, I think
who's
that just
playing alongside Nikola Jokic, by the way, for Serbia.
That is very confusing. I was actually really thinking, I hope I pronounced this the right way. I'm pretty sure I got it right then.
You did.
Yeah. This is really good for them. On the flip side, in terms of the hobby value for Caleb Martin, look, I don't think there's a heap of upside for this guy. I think he's the type of guy that you love his game, you love his hustle. He probably plays better than you're expecting them if you sit through and watch, say, 5 76ers games in a row, but I don't think you're going to go out and spend your hard-earned cash on Caleb Martin. So interesting one, but more for winning as opposed to, hardcore collecting.
True.
Now, these next few are just going to be quick hitters, because these are all ones that I've rolled in from previous weeks that some of these we've pushed back from a month now. So
yeah, true. Some of them might be out of date. Who knows?
yeah, I mean, look, it's still off-season stuff, but it's definitely not fresh news anymore.
Yep.
Patrick Beverley is planning to sign with the Israeli basketball club, excuse again my pronunciation, Hapoel Tel Aviv, BC. So thanks, Pat Bev, for all the memories. I've enjoyed watching you troll people for years and years and basically just be an annoying little bastard, but I've loved every second of it, and I'm going to miss you for sure. So
he'll be back to guest commentate. I guarantee it.
Yeah, he's got his own podcast that was doing pretty well until he shut out one of the reporters in the change room that week. Good old Pat Bev.
Oh, Pat Bev. Yeah, Pat Bev. Wow.
One to put on your prospecting list, though, is Mr. Furphy. Johnny Furphy is actually an Australian basketball player. He was put into the green room, so the expectation is if you're in the green room, you'll go somewhere in the first round, usually in the top 15 to 18. He actually fell into the second round. The Pacers have acquired him, and I'm really liking everything that I'm seeing. I probably think he's like 1 year away in terms of physical maturity, but the Pacers also don't play their rookies a lot, so I'm not expecting him to see him a lot out there, but Summer League he's been awesome. 16 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 1.7 steals, 40% from the field and 33% from three. So 19 years of age, 6'8". I think there's a lot to like about this kid.
Yeah, for sure.
I think effort-wise it's all there. I think defensively he's pretty good. I think his shooting numbers will, obviously improve on what we just listed there. But I also get the feeling with this guy, it's just all about the right attitude, the right environment for him. And I think he's going to do really, really well. So I think this is a bit of a cop-out. But if he becomes a Spurs player, I think he'll be fantastic. Do you know what I mean? Like he just goes into a system that's, it's all, he's just that type of player that plays basketball the right way. I think there's a lot to like about this kid.
True.
Zaire Williams, we've already touched on that. So let's go to Paulo Banchero sale. This is a little bit of an interesting one. 2022 Prism rookie card, Red Power, PSA 10. Population on this is just 23. It's also numbered to 75, so it's never going to be more than 75
bit
of these.
A spike, yeah.
Yeah, if you are looking at the trend on this, he was very much up. It was nearly a $2,000 card, and it was all the way down to $500, and then a very slow and steady upwards, and then a huge spike up to that $2,700 mark. Look, I think at $500, that's a really shrewd purchase, but at the same time, for me, at $2,700, you either know something that everyone else doesn't know yet, or you just really like this card and you really like this player. Look, I love Banchero. I think he's an amazing scorer. In terms of his NBA body, I think he's like top 10 in terms of athleticism, but at the same time, he's in a funny market. And as good as he plays...
Orlando's in a tough spot, yeah.
Yeah, not that many people even know who, Paulo Banchero is. So, look, for me, Banchero is a very much like a tread easily one. It's not that I don't love his talent and all the rest of it. It's just... how will the market play out and influence the value of this card? That's what I'm really not too sure about.
Very true.
Buy, hold, or sell for you at $2,700.
Sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about long term? Do you think that that's a long term burn where you put it away and hold on to it?
Number to 75 might be. I'd like to see how Orlando go next year first. Do you know what I mean?
Magic...
Like I want to see a kind of see a little bit more than just make the playoffs.
Do you know the funny thing for me is that the Magic had such a huge jump this year. If they don't have another jump, I feel like people are going to be disappointed when in fact they're almost like 2 years ahead. Do you know what I mean?
They're doing what OKC did, but
they're doing amazing.
Yeah. I feel like they're literally just following the footsteps of what OKC have built with their young lineup. Yeah.
If you want to call them the OKC of the East, I think that's awesome.
OK East. Ceased? No, just OK East. I was waiting for it.
Eye-catching sale from our friends at Card Ladder. Kobe Bryant, this is for you, Ad.
Nice.
2012-13 Prism autograph silver number 225.
Whew.
BGS 9.5, Auto 10, last sold for $19,800 dues. Adam, buy, hold, or sell this. That to me looks like an on-card autograph too.
Doesn't look like it's numbered to 25. That's my only little thing with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks like a...
So it should be checkerboarded or it should be mojoed, something like that for that short print. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it should be something.
Again, I think that's a sign of the times, Ad. In 12-13, they didn't do 16,000 parallels.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. It might have just been the auto was a rare auto, because I know sometimes the parallel color isn't the point. It's just a rare autograph, so we only sign that many, kind of thing. Look, it's hard for me to ever say sell on Kobe. So hold.
I think for me, this is a really good almost case study in that I think this is a special card and I think it's an important card. I think it's a very beautiful card. But maybe this, to me, sort of illustrates a little bit of that Kobe Bryant is really a hold. And this is sort of the future prices that we're going to see with these autographs.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the lower numbered autos.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like unnumbered, maybe that's a sell. That's something you think about. But when there's numbering involved, it's... Yeah.
I think Kobe Bryant autos in general, for me, are just a buy. I think you can't go a lot wrong unless you egregiously overpay for something. But I think in general, buying Kobe autos is a really good thing. The other thing that really takes my fancy on this card too is that I think in general, I'm pretty critical about Prism autographs, but actually that is a really nice looking card. Obviously it's an on-card autograph, so there's that part of it too, but that's just a beautiful card.
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty, from Kobe Bryant to Davion Mitchell, just couldn't be any more. You can't comp this, really. He has been traded from the Sacramento Kings to the Toronto Raptors. Look, I think for the Kings, this is really about freeing up some salary cap space. It's also about freeing up a roster spot.
Yep.
Now that we know that DeMar DeRozan went there, but there's actually a part of me that thinks that he's a nice little prospect. So I think the Raptors have done a good job there in picking that up. The Raptors also got Sasha Vezkanov, which actually I think is a good little off the bench 3-4 man who will do really well for the Raptors. And the Kings have picked up Jalen McDaniels. Actually, I think the part where I think Davion Mitchell was important for the Kings was his defense. Yeah. And maybe now that I think about this, I'm sort of a couple of weeks down the track. Jalen McDaniels is actually a more versatile defender than what Mitchell is. So he actually might be a bit more useful for the Kings. So I don't feel as bad about this now as I did when I first heard about it. So that's probably a good sign. Speaking of teams who are smart, doing smart things, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but the Detroit Pistons have claimed Paul Reed off waivers. Again, we're talking about this before with teams basically using salary cap to pick up, future assets or players. I think Paul Reed is a legitimate backup center in the NBA. So if he's playing for the next 10 years for a team in the NBA, I'm not going to be surprised about that. I think he's a talented guy. I think this is a really, really good get for the Pistons. And the funny thing for me is I feel like the Pistons have been doing this the last couple of years, but it just hasn't really pulled off. They got Marvin Bagley. They got James Wiseman. They've done it with a couple of other prospects too that I'll admit it's not really coming to the forefront of my mind. But I don't mind the Pistons doing this, having a go, bringing in some guys.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the best one that they've done so far. I think probably the lowest ceiling out of all of them, but maybe the highest true NBA potential in terms of a veteran who's skilled and you're not just sort of betting on this potential that, might come into play or not.
True.
The only downside though is if they did this, does that mean that the salary now comes off the Philadelphia 76ers books? Because I think that's what happens. If they claim it off waivers, the contract essentially gets traded over without a trade happening. Okay. So have they actually done the 76ers a favor in terms of picking up his salary straight away?
Possibly, yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. I feel like Philly's trying to position to do what Boston was doing with picking up pieces to strengthen themselves. That's a later episode talk.
I think so. Final thoughts, Ad? What have you got for us?
Final thoughts. I'll be interested to see what happens in the Olympics. and how that if there are any standouts that become hobby relevant, like Jovic and Jokic.
Yeah.
The new dynamic duo in Serbia.
Yeah.
Not. I'll be curious to see who's left in free agency and where these players go. Maybe we touch on that next episode once a few more people have been picked up. But
I actually had that in the list. You want it really quickly?
We can smash it out. There's not many left, are there?
Tyus Jones, Markel Fultz, Isaac Okoro, restricted free agent, Lonnie Walker, Luke Kennard. Kennard is rumored to go back to the Grizzlies, and the Zaire Williams trade was part of that. So I think that's done. Yep. Precious Achiuwa, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Dinwiddie just got picked up by the Mavs.
Is that true? Because I wasn't too sure if that was a real story or a fake one.
Oh, okay. So there's a rumor that he's being picked up by the Mavs then.
Gordon Hayward, Jay Crowder, Marcus Morris. I hate that guy. Dennis Smith Jr., Robert Covington, Seti Osman, and Doug McDermott. I think McDermott's going to be back in the league somewhere. Yep. He's too good of a shooter.
The Lakers are about to sign a bunch of random people for minimums.
I mean, some of these guys at minimum would be fantastic. Like if you could get Jay Crowder, Gordon Hayward.
I don't know what
terrible.
The plan is because
Seti Osman.
The Lakers haven't signed anything in free agency.
What about Markel Fultz at the minimum?
I'd take Fultz. Yeah.
I feel like that's
Covington.
Something the Clippers would do. Actually, I feel like
the
they're
Lakers
taking
would take
flyers.
Covington. I think he can shoot the ball. Yeah, there's a few pickups there. I think LeBron's waiting until he finishes his Olympic campaign to come back, and wave his flag around, and then
then do his GM work. Then fair enough.
He'll have a flag to wave anytime he wants to do something. Wonder if he gets to keep the flag. That's my final thought. I wonder if LeBron gets to keep the flag.
I feel like if he just wrote them a letter and said, "I want the flag," they'll just give it to him.
I want the flag that I carried. Yeah. Cool.
My final thought, just touching on what you said about the Team USA guys, I think Halliburton is going to be the big winner. Because I think if you build a team with that much talent around it and you put someone in there, Halliburton, who, in my opinion, is the closest thing to Steve Nash that we're going to see in our generation. Like, it's just a match made in heaven. Like, if you're a point guard like that, that's what you want, is like people to pass the ball to, and he's got 11 guys to throw to, except for
set a
Derek
record
White.
for Olympic assists. You throw shade at White again. He's not going to get a minute in the Olympics. Actually, that's what we didn't touch on. Kevin Durant, if they win the gold, will be one of a very, very few athletes to have ever won 4 gold medals at separate Olympics.
Yeah, right.
Goes into very rare company. Anyway.
The guy's an absolute baller.
I think the young players playing with these vets is going to be a huge benefit on their career.
Maybe that's what we've missed out, is talking more about Kevin Durant.
No, he's...
Maybe we need a Kevin Durant deep dive, Ryan.
Can I take the week off the week we do Kevin Durant?
Sure.
He might be a player I like less than Luka. If that's possible. Anyway.
On that note, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to our Central Coast Radio listeners. We appreciate you all. And I'm not too sure if I want to thank you for the request that you made last week for the radio show. It was... I'm never doing that again, basically. We've done it once. It's not happening again.
What? Ask people for requests?
Did you see the playlist?
No. Oh, my God.
Thanks, Al, for your request. That was really weird. Thanks, everyone.